Everyone, and welcome to lesson 8.2, day 1. Today we are going to start talking about trig ratios and their initial setup. So we've talked a lot about right triangles and that the side opposite of our right angle is what is known as our hypotenuse, right? Well, if we look at one of those acute angles, for instance, in this triangle, angle Q, this side that is across from it or opposite, that leg is known as the opposite leg or side. And then the side that's next to it is known as its adjacent side or the adjacent leg. So if we look at this example down below, if we want to focus on angle C, we want to label the hypotenuse, the adjacent leg, and the opposite leg. Well, our hypotenuse is always that side across from our right angle. So that's going to be side AC. And then the adjacent leg is the leg that's next to our angle that we're talking about, but it's not the hypotenuse, it's the leg. So this would be the adjacent leg. So that's going to be side CR. And then last but not least, the opposite leg is the side across, the leg away from our angle. So in this case, this is the opposite. So AR, you can call it RA, either way would be the opposite. All right, you try. This time you are talking about angle B and what is your hypotenuse, adjacent leg, and opposite leg in that triangle. Now, sometimes we are going to be given the angle, sometimes we're going to be given the degree size, and we want to be able to list the adjacent and the opposite, and of course, our hypotenuse. Now, looking at this triangle here, notice they gave us an angle that's 64 degrees, but they want us to find the adjacent leg for the 26-degree angle. So you might be looking at this picture and saying, where the heck is 26? That's going to actually come from this acute angle up here, because we know if we take 180 minus 90 minus 64, that angle is going to be 26 degrees. So again, this is going to be our angle in question. Even though it wasn't initially given, we know that that's the 26-degree angle. And then the adjacent is going to be the side that is next to it. The opposite would be that side across, that leg across from it. So our adjacent leg is side H. The opposite leg would be side G. Down in the next example, they want you to try. This time you are finding the adjacent leg for the 71-degree angle and the opposite leg for the 71-degree angle. Right. On the back then, we are going to use these different sides then to set up this different relationship. So these are our trig ratios. We call them the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. Okay, and this is, again, the basics of trigonometry. And what happens is when we are setting up these ratios, we are taking the opposite leg over the hypotenuse for sine, adjacent leg over the hypotenuse for cosine, and then opposite leg over adjacent leg for our tangent. So oftentimes you're going to see this called SOHCAHTOA. So that stands for sine, opposite over hypotenuse. There's the SO. The CA is the adjacent over hypotenuse. That's the cosine. And then the TOA, which is the tangent, opposite over adjacent. So step 1 is always going to be to look at the reference angle they want you. In this case, we want angle A. So there's our angle in question, and we want to then label opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse based on that angle. So the hypotenuse is that side across from our right angle. Opposite leg is across from our angle. Adjacent leg is the leg next to our angle. So when we set up the sine, we want opposite over hypotenuse, O over H, so side BC over side AB. The cosine then is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, so side AC over side AB. And then the tangent is that ratio of opposite over adjacent, so BC, the opposite leg over our adjacent leg, AC. Now, sometimes we need to label it with the sides since we didn't give any angle measurements. Sometimes they will ask us using the side lengths. So this time our angle in question is angle B. So we're going to start, we are going to label our hypotenuse, the leg across from our angle is the opposite leg, and then the leg next to it is our adjacent leg. And again, we are setting up SOHCAHTOA. So remember, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So for the first one, sine, opposite over hypotenuse, 11 over 61. We always want to reduce, in this case, those are both prime numbers, so 11 over 61 is where it stays. Cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse, so 60 over 61, again, it is reduced. And then our last one, tangent, opposite over adjacent for angle B would be 11 over 60. We have one final example here for you to try. This time you are looking at angle A. And again, using SOHCAHTOA, you are going to label opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse and set up your 3 trig ratios. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll work more with these in class.